always like to open with some form of sermon for these Magic Minds. And today I just wanted to talk about cultivating connections. So having not been on social media, as you all know, for 5 years, and that's had 0%. It's been a 0% part of how I've grown Magic Media and how we're growing Magic Kids. It was just like, I don't give it any thought. So in order to still grow the business, and specifically where I'm really focused these days is on how do we grow Magic Kids numbers to build our listenership, to build our subscriptions, to build book sales and all that sort of stuff. So we're also with Magic Media, we're exploring, I think we have 5 applications in right now for different partnerships that we may end up taking on as basically helping them to build Mighty Networks and do a bunch of media production. And so there's all of these conversations that are happening. And what I've been reminded of, I just got off a previous meeting with a homeschool educator who's in the UK that was introduced to me by a coach that I've hired to support with our marketing strategy. That coach has also introduced Magic Kids to another dozen or so different people. And so just this idea of how one can lead to many, whereas in social media is kind of backwards. It's like your goal in social media is to just go to straight to many. And it takes a lot of effort to get the many to pay attention to you. Whereas what I'm finding is like, I get these warm introductions from a warm conversation that I've had with somebody on Zoom, or some of them are happening in person. And then those warm introductions, I have a conversation with this woman, Jo, over in the UK that runs this homeschooling hub. And in that one meeting, she has 7 new introductions that she's going to send emails to connect me to these other leaders who also have these massive hubs. And the same goes on the Magic Media side of things with these different applications that have come in for partnerships. Is like, those were an introduction. The person, like, they apply, we have a conversation, and that leads to the partnerships that we're now solidifying. With Magic Kids, I'm also, for the first time in 17 years, we have the biggest artisanal market in the Pacific Northwest on Salt Spring Island. So it's massive. It draws tens of thousands of tourists to Salt Spring Island every weekend. And so I'm the guy running the booth, selling Magic Kids books and telling our Magic Kids story at the market. So I'm actually out in the public for the first time in 17 years. Selling physical things. And that's been going amazing and leading to more connections. It's been leading to more people, like educators, wanting to figure out how they can work with Magic Kids. And so all these things come from like these warm leads or warm conversations that then lead to these network connections that take place. And if your marketing strategy is just posting on Facebook and Instagram, these network connections don't happen because people are so busy scrolling their feed. They might share something, but probably not. And whereas like an introduction like this, or like, hey, I'm doing this, I see you're doing that, maybe there's some value. So some of these conversations that I'm having have come from me just finding a website in my research, or somebody saying, hey, you should check out these guys. So I'll send an email to I sent an email to this meditation organization called Ziva Meditation. And I mean, they've sold millions of dollars in meditation programs online. So we're meeting tomorrow about Magic Kids meditation, as well as what we do at Magic Media. And so there's just all of these connections that are coming from real life conversations. And so the purpose of today's sermon is just to remind you of the power of cultivating these connections and trying to schedule into your calendar space for real engagement with real people that you have things in common with, to see where those can lead. And so in this conversation I just had with Jo in the UK, I mean, she was just firing off like, oh, I need to introduce you to this person, I have to introduce. So at the end of it, I have 7 links. She's going to make 7 introductions. I have 7 follow-ups, and those are 7 new hubs that I'm now being introduced to. And that's the power of one, because everybody has connections. And then at the end of the conversation, after she was done all her excitement, I was like, what can we do for you? And she was like, well, actually, what you do at Magic Media is what we need support with. So there's this synergy of co-creation that's taking place. It's like the olden days where it's like, oh, I have goods and services, you have goods and services. Let's trade our goods and services and see how we can find a win-win in this relationship. And it's so freaking simple. It just takes the effort of booking times. I highly recommend you have a scheduling app, whether it's Calendly or something like that. So it's really easy for you to book 30-minute conversations to explore relationships with other people, and try to book 3 or 4 of those types of calls per week if marketing and growing your business is the stage that you're at right now, because those relationships are going to take you far and people are going to connect you with more people. And that's the network effect of you having these warm conversations with people that you share things in common with, and they're going to open doors for you, and hopefully vice versa. You can open doors for them and provide some form of value in exchange. So that concludes my sermon. It's powerful. I'm seeing it every single week. I mean, this week is an exhausting work schedule for me. I have 20 Zoom calls. Some of them are coaching, some of them are consulting projects. A bunch of them are these types of meetings where we're just exploring relationship, or we're exploring if there's a fit to work together. But all weeks aren't 20 Zoom calls. That's definitely not a normal thing for me, but it's working. I'm seeing the enthusiasm and just like what happens when we book the space to just hang out and get to know other people. So that is my advice today, is like, how many conversations can you book in the next month with people that you have a shared interest and values with, that you just go into the conversation without a hidden agenda, just like an open exploration of like, let's get to know each other and what we're doing and see if there's synergy to collaborate or support one another in any way. And oftentimes inspiration will come from the conversations if it's just an openness to explore, and there might be some connections that are made. And if our goal is to be as helpful as possible when we show up to those conversations, good things will naturally unfold. And sometimes they won't. They might not lead anywhere. But if you have a few conversations a week, your chances are it's going to lead you to good paths ahead, and you're going to open up to more connections, more resources, and probably more client or partnership projects that are going to support the end goal for you. So with all that, write down 10 names right now. 10 names or 10 organizations, 10 retreat centers, 10 people that you can reach out to in the next week to set up a 30-minute conversation about what you're doing and what you're trying to do, to see if there's a mutually beneficial fit for you to collaborate. So come whatever the first 10 are, your homework is going to be to reach out to those people and bridge those connections and just see where those paths lead. At the very least, you might get a 30-minute conversation with somebody that's just enjoyable to have a chat. And then the next step after you have your 10 names will be to go to each of their websites if you don't know a lot about them, and try to spend 5 minutes with each contact's website to learn more about them. What are they doing? Go to their about page, understand their messaging, their organization's mission, and make a note or two about where you feel you have something in common so that you can lead for that when you reach out to them. And another great thing to do is within your own network, if you know people that know people, ask those people to make introductions for you. Most people are so busy living in their silo, in their lane, trying to pursue their own dreams and passions, that they never even think that they might know somebody they can introduce yourself to. So as you look at that list of 10 people, are there people in your life that if you were just brave and courageous enough to reach out to them and say, hey, I know you know so-and-so, could you make an introduction to me? Because a warm introduction is way better than a cold outreach. Or, hey, do you know anybody in this field that could potentially help me move forward with what I'm trying to do? Do you have any introductions you could make for me? People are mostly happy to make an introduction if it makes sense, if the relationship and connection makes sense. So that's another thing that you can ask for is just ask for introductions. I've got multiple people right now who I've reached out to about the Magic Kids business plan saying, hey, can you please make some introductions to investors? And that led to $25,000 last week. I'm sure it's going to lead to more investment capital coming in future weeks, all because I asked, can you make an introduction? So just think about your network, leverage your network, and keep setting up these warm conversations with people so that you can continue to access more hubs. And then the final piece of this little advice sermon is to create a spreadsheet of relationships. So Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies calls this your hub list. You call it whatever you want. Just have a spreadsheet with all the contacts and kind of categorize those in tabs based on whatever industry or interests those hubs have. And then every time you have a conversation, just leave a note in the spreadsheet so that every 1 to 3 months you can go into the spreadsheet and remember all the people that you forgot to follow up with, or that you could send a follow-up email to if the conversations have kind of fizzled out. And that, my friends, is how you go about growing your business one relationship at a time. That is the network effect that takes place when you just show up with an open heart and a curiosity to explore relationships with others. And what you'll probably find is your passion and enthusiasm will rub off on them, and they'll think of a whole bunch of people that they need to introduce you to. The end and the beginning.